that is a baby little Oriole in one of those hanging nests. So I ask you to root for the Orioles and think about Margaret Mead's quote. We're going through lots of storms and transitions and change, but we all have to learn how to build our nests together. Next slide, if you would. So what we're going to go briefly through here, again, our take-homes from day one. We always talk about feedback. There'll be many opportunities for that. We'll do a brief review of CU and CME, as well as information. Should we go ahead and do the participatory thing first here, Fred?
I think it's reflected later in the slide, so let's take it one slide at a time.
Okay. Sure. No, that's fine. So again, I guess I always value history. I have many more years of it than many of you as young genetic counselors, and appreciated all the work Michelle put in to telling us about, how we went from corn margin to today in NIMAC, and there'll be another acronym out there fairly soon, I imagine, as well, because I think the value of these regional networks will once again be recognized. Certainly appreciated Jeff Brosco's approach today to building on his own work, both as a pediatrician, developmental physician and specialist, and looking at newborn screening. And I think all of us, whether it's, women who as adults with PKU can't get their formula paid for while they're pregnant, to other gaps across states that may, not have enough newborn screening cards at one point, and all, really the idea of system improvement in that area is certainly important. But again, how do we match that with all of what was talked about later in the day of making sure that the family-centeredness continues? Certainly there are provisions in the new grants for that. And again, appreciate all that Radhika, Enrique, and Shayla talked about in terms of the activities of outreach, education, and beginning services that NIMAC and Maria Isabel will continue. I love hearing Rosianna's talk and having my slides. I've taken medical Spanish twice, but for short stints, and unfortunately it doesn't stick. And I have the benefit of having a wonderful genetic assistant here at Hopkins who works closely with me. One thing that I think has been a real advance here, and I don't know how many other places have it, is that people now can have a Spanish interpreter sort of from the beginning, who then can't guarantee continues that same person through every step of the way, but it's another way to, I think, build trust and not just feeling like you're always handoff or, going to somebody else that you're waiting until the music stops kind of thing. And then Mary Beth and Shruti certainly appreciate. You were very nice, and Alyssa did a great job, I think, for Donna in sharing continuing progress in resources and concierge navigation, et cetera, as well as CEU and other opportunities. Next slide. So as always, we learn from you, and we learn together. So our question for you to put something in the chat, and we'll build the responses together here through Fred, is how or what will you take from the conversations today to continue to engage with your communities? As NIMAC, again, resources will be available on the web and in storage, so to speak, but active storage and all. Are there things you learned today that will help you in your advocacy as well as work with families and communities?
And so we'll see those come into the chat, Joann, and then we'll have a separate Mentimeter in a bit.
All right. So are we ready to proceed to the next, Fred?
Yes.
All right. So again, some of this is review, and that's, again, I will continue to say, give us feedback, although there presumably won't be exactly the same NIMAC annual meeting next year. We know there are other annual meetings that will occur, and the feedback we can certainly share with you as well. We built a lot of these meetings on your feedback from prior years. You can see on here the dates by which evaluation online to get your credits have to be finished. That's May 3rd. again, I'm not going to read this entire slide here. They happen, the CEU and CME surveys are in English, but the general survey is in both. And there are resources that have been embedded not only in the website, but you can ask by email, but the stuff is in your materials. Next slide. Again, I'm not going to read this, but you have heard earlier in the day, and we'll repeat here, there is a small charge for the CEUs and all, but again, we have the 10 hours of 10 category 1 credits. Again, it's different because of how NSGC and the FACMG count credits and all, but again, you have to have attended the sessions and enter your particular user IDs to get credit. Next slide, please. All right, next slide. Again, for the medical and DO practitioners and all, AMA credits are here. Again, the deadline for this is May 24th. Next slide. And again, they were up to 11.25, which is a nice number for 2 days of work. Next slide. All right, again, the details have been presented earlier and available both at the brochure website, and again, we can also take questions. Next slide. All right, so again, these are scenes from St. Croix, St. Thomas, and Puerto Rico. I think you may recognize the Puerto Rico flag to the lower left of the pictures. I think, you know, again, from the perspective of being at genetics for a long time, I am empowered by Harry Belafonte's work as well as by the work of each of you, and we go forward together, even though NIMAC, again, is transitioning. We appreciate your being here, your work and wisdom. Obviously, self-care is important. We will have conversations on going after this. Next slide, I think, is the agenda for tomorrow. Is a nice bridge, or did you want to do the Mentimeter here? Okay, my notes are a little different. All right, so again, tomorrow starts with the early social networking. Michelle will kick us off. Again, Eric and Fred have really great experience in helping organizations like ours and other organizations deal with change. So I think that'll be a very valuable session. Patty Archuleta, as many of you may know her, as project director at Family Voices, again, is really going to talk about not the work only that's been done to date, but sort of going forward. And then we have a wonderful session that Andrea will lead with Mark Williams. Many of you know as long-term geneticist doing work now through Geisinger, but talking on his experience in other parts of the United States that are rural and how to interact with rural populations. And then two leaders, Rhonda Jackson from HRSA and Do Sun Yen, who is the Legislative Affairs Manager at the National Rural Health Association. So we're looking forward to that. And for those of you who come from rural areas, again, we've had a great discussion about how to think about resources that are especially there for rural areas. Next slide, please. And then again, we'll have the industry sessions. Again, thanks to Pat for making so many of those arrangements. Next slide. And then again, really the last couple of sessions, alternatives in harnessing the power of a story, and then telehealth resources. And then Alyssa will lead us forward on really what I hope and expect and know will be a great gathering around going forward when we have this kind of transition or change. So I can't decide if it's a little like graduating, retiring, what the right transition analogy is here. I sometimes feel more like a teenager. I sometimes feel more like an older person. So I don't know where you are on that journey. All right, next slide. All right, so we're asking here again, what are you looking forward to in tomorrow's session?
And so that access to join has just been put in the Zoom chat. So there's a link there, and in a moment, those results will be screen shared. So we'll be able to see those as they come up.
One 128 people still there. That's pretty good. All right. Well, again, people either were looking carefully at the agenda or remember what I said. There's a lot of almost the titles of the talks there. It's great. We again hope that all of you will be returning tomorrow. We always have new faces. Sounds like there were good experience with the industry talks today, and seeing and hearing those again tomorrow. As well as addressing the concerns and possibilities and opportunities in building nests when transitions and storms. So we will, after this, have continuing conversations and all, but my hope really is that you've enjoyed the day, learned from the day, and that you'll be with us tomorrow and in the continuing conversations for those who have time here still. I think we have had a very successful day. Again, want to thank particularly Alyssa and Pat for I don't know how many hours you spent with Fred and Erica, but it shows. How's that in a good way? And again, appreciate really the music, and I appreciate all the support, and what now is a blurred screen because somehow my NIMAC Zoom background disappeared during the day. I have no idea. Is it not secure here at all? So thanks to everybody, and I think it's back now to Erica. Alyssa, did you want to say anything?
No, just echo what Joann said. We really appreciate everyone that was with us today, and for all your great participation and input and questions. And glad to see so many people are interested in all different aspects of what's coming tomorrow. Kind of saw things all across the board. So really looking forward to all that tomorrow.